So you've got a side hustle, or you're thinking about starting one, but the economy's getting, well, a little shaky. How do you make sure your project actually survives, let alone thrives, when things get tough? You know, it feels like a huge guessing game, but it turns out there's a science to it. We're about to break down that science of survival. Let's dive in.
All right, let's just rip the Band-Aid off, shall we? A massive 90% of side hustles fail. And when economic pressures like inflation really start to squeeze, that failure rate just goes into overdrive. It's a pretty brutal statistic, but honestly, understanding why that happens is the very first step to beating those odds.
So, if 90% fail, what's the deal with the other 10%? What's their secret? And I'll tell you right now, it's not about having some eureka moment or just getting lucky. It all comes down to the fundamental model of the business itself.
Okay, but before we can get to the winners, before we can really understand what works, we have to do a little detective work. We need to perform an autopsy on the failures. To figure out what makes a side hustle so resilient, we first have to understand what makes most of them so incredibly fragile. The first major culprit is what I like to call the silent killer: high overhead. I want you to picture a leaky bucket. If you have to pay for things like a workshop space, or stock up on a ton of physical products, or spend a fortune on ads every single month, you're constantly losing water. So when a dry spell hits, like a recession, that bucket empties almost instantly.
Next up is a concept that sounds like something from an economics textbook, but stick with me, it's actually super simple. It's called price elasticity. Really, all it means is how much will your customers freak out if you have to raise your prices? See, if you're selling nice-to-haves, like fancy candles or custom art, your customers are going to be super sensitive. Even a small price bump can cause your sales to just completely collapse. And of course, that leads us right into our third big problem: discretionary spending. Think about it. When the cost of groceries, gas, and rent goes up, what's the very first thing that people cut from their budget? It's the fun stuff, the non-essentials. So if your side hustle relies on people's extra fun money, you're on the front lines of an economic downturn. And that's a really dangerous place to be. So you see the pattern, right? On one side, you have these incredibly vulnerable models that are just bleeding cash and rely on people feeling flush with money. And on the other side, well, that's where things get interesting. That's the blueprint for resilience. These are the models that are built to last. Okay, enough of the doom and gloom. This is the turning point. We've seen why most ventures crumble. Now let's pull back the curtain on the 3 bulletproof business models that are designed to thrive, especially when the pressure is on. These are the survivors. And here they are, the 3 survivors: knowledge commerce, asset monetization, and essential microservices. These 3 categories right here are pretty much the safest, most inflation-proof ways to build a second stream of income. So let's break down exactly what they are and, more importantly, why they work so well.
First up, we've got knowledge commerce. The name pretty much says it all. You're selling what's in your head, not something you have to physically build or ship. So think about a graphic designer who creates one online course about how to design a great logo. They do the work once, but they can sell it 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times with practically zero extra cost. It's the pure monetization of a skill you already have.
All right, survivor number 2 is asset monetization. And this one is so powerful because its key trait is brilliantly simple. You generate revenue from something you already own. You're not going out and buying a new car to be a rideshare driver. No, you're renting out the car you already have on the weekends when you're not using it. This model completely sidesteps that high upfront investment by just using the stuff you've got lying around. And that brings us to our third and final survivor: essential microservices. This is all about solving a real, non-negotiable problem for people. Look, people might cancel their vacation, but they can't skip fixing a leaky pipe in their kitchen or getting their kid a tutor for math class. These services are basically anti-discretionary. Demand doesn't just stay stable, it can actually go up when times get tough.
Okay, so we've got the 3 models that just work. But now for the really cool part, the why. What are the actual principles that give these models their power, their incredible resilience? This right here is where it all clicks.
Take a look at this. We're calling it the resilience matrix. This is where you can literally see the science in action. Just notice how each of our survivor models checks at least one of these critical boxes. Knowledge commerce and asset monetization, they're champs at having low costs and using what you already have. Essential microservices, they nail that non-negotiable problem. This isn't random.
It's by design.
So what's the big takeaway here? What's the common thread tying all three of these survivors together? It's this. They all transform what you already have, your knowledge, your stuff, your skills, into what you need, which is income, all without taking on the massive risk of new costs.
All right, we've gone through the theory, we've looked at the science, now it's time to bring it home. How do you actually use all of this to build your own inflation-proof side hustle? Let's get you that blueprint.
And if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. True resilience isn't about sitting around waiting for some revolutionary, once-in-a-lifetime idea to strike you like a lightning bolt. No way. It's about taking a clear, practical look at the skills and the assets you already have and just applying one of these proven, powerful models to it.
So, I'm going to leave you with a question, a little homework if you will. I want you to really think about this. Look at your life, your career, your hobbies, even the stuff that's just sitting in your garage. What knowledge, what asset, or what essential skill do you already possess that you could plug into one of these resilient models? Maybe even today. The answer, I bet, is sitting right there in front of you.